Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Justin Johnson. Today I'll be presenting the scenario for the Scooter Rental Company, which is a B2C global enterprise that operates out of 10 different cities. They're seeking to replace their existing legacy scooter rental application with a route application that includes processes for riders, dealers, and service management. Some of the assumptions I made is that Salesforce will act as a system record for the rider and the rental data, and that the kiosk has a separate system for payments and rentals. With the actors and licenses, we begin with the executives who receive service cloud license, along with the service reps, maintenance associates, and kiosk technicians. All will receive service cloud license for access to cases as well as to work orders. The role hierarchy rolls from the executives down to the maintenance associates and the kiosk technicians. The service reps operate globally. The riders receive customer community license, and the repair service managers receive customer community plus. The system itself is implemented in a single org to unify data processing and collaboration. We also enable multi-language through custom labels and Visualforce email templates and translation workbench for a translator to then translate the metadata. The single org installs scheduler for the scheduler capabilities with the assets, and CRMA is installed as well for advanced analytics. The internal users authenticate via Azure AD. In fact, that enables the automatic authentication via Kerberos for the on Active Directory Windows Hello. And the Azure AD is integrated with the LDAP AD, LDAP-based identity store, that's AD in this case. The external users authenticate using OIDC via Google and Facebook auth providers. The apps provider itself validates the ID token that's returned by the social services provider. They also access the application via the Rider app, which is a mobile publisher app that authorizes with Salesforce using auth-code plus FixieFlow. We take an API-led approach to integrations using reusable APIs that are managed by an ESB, secured by a job-based trust model. The ESB integrates with the scooter tracking database and the government license check for the government licenses. Pricing calculation will be done in a separate system as well, and the ESB is integrated through the firewall via a reverse proxy with the finance application. The ETL as well facilitates the migration of data from the legacy rider rental applications per office in these databases with Salesforce. The riders will begin the process by self-registering themselves. They will be entering their name, address, phone number, driver's license number, and preferred language through this self-registration form. Once they do that, that will create then an account for them, a person account for them. That person account is integrated with, once that person account is created, there's going to be an integration, request and reply with the government registry for the driver's license verification that includes the driver's license number. Once they've been validated, that will then flag them as having a valid license on their person account. And then the riders will be able to upload a photo of themselves using the mobile application, optionally via the camera feature of that mobile application, or they can choose to upload a photo of themselves, and that will then upload a photo to their profile within Salesforce. At this point, the registered riders will be able to access a screen flow that will enable them to search for and reserve scooters based on the location of the scooter, the dates that they're available, and the checkout times. They'll be able to do that via a query on the time slots that are listed per service territory. The service territory members then have a child relationship with the time slots. When they select the time slots, there will be a request and reply integration with the pricing calculation system that returns them the rental cost for the screen flow to display. That will be then on the second screen. On the second screen, then they will be able to confirm they are willing to pay. They'll then be brought to the final screen where they will accept, and then there will be the creation of the assigned resource, which is a standard out of the box object with the Salesforce scheduler that will then link that scooter, which is a service resource, the scooter with the service appointment via junction. The the service appointment itself stores then the cost that return for the pricing calculation that factors in then afterwards into the integration with finance. Once a service appointment is marked as scheduled via the status, there will be a record flow that will then generate a QR code file that is stored and associated with the service appointment as a content version record. The external service was not listed in the system landscape, but there will be just an external service to first submit an input code that will accept an input code and then return a blob file that will then be stored as a content version. On the day of the checkout, based on the scheduled appointment, service appointment here, the rider will be able to unlock the scooter using that same QR code. That QR code will be returned to Salesforce from the depot scanner, and that will be using a remote call-in where it returns then a result of a Boolean, whether or not they have a valid service appointment for that time for that scooter. Once that's returned to the depot, then the depot will unlock the scooter for them to then play around with. They can ride around the city on the city scooter. And they can then, at that point also, or beforehand, they can also swipe a credit card if they don't have a QR code, and then that would then, the kiosk itself would handle those payments. That was one of my assumptions as well, is that the kiosk itself will handle the payments. When the rider returns a scooter, so after they're done riding around the city on their city scooter, they will log into the kiosk and then show a summary. I'm assuming that the kiosk has its own system, so they're not reliant upon Salesforce. They, when they've returned that scooter, which is marked in my landscape as an asset, that will then update the service appointment from the kiosk, update the service appointment with the actual end time, so all the status is completed. The kiosk itself will facilitate that integration with Salesforce via using a remote call-in to Salesforce to update then the service appointment as completed in all those fields. The kiosk will integrate then afterwards with the ESP via its own system APIs. The ESP will expose system APIs that will then be for the financial data. The kiosk will integrate with the financial system using a pub sub, since it is just communicating facts. The ESB will also be able to facilitate the communication of tracking data from the scooters. The ESB will do that through subscription of the GPS events that are being communicated from the database. I'm assuming the database itself can also fire events that that the ESB can subscribe to and then process. The ESB will have its own process APIs for the ability for a case to be only created when there is a possible theft detected. This will be based on the ESB's own internal logic that it will track each individual scooter, and then the last time it received an update, if it receives an update past a certain point, then it will create a case in Salesforce. That case will then be received by the service agents that will then be responsible for resolving it. The support representatives will be notified. This notification is also facilitated by a email that is sent to that specific queue that it's being assigned to. The depot technicians will be able to change the depot details. This will be based on their association as an account, as the account owner of these accounts. I'm assuming that since there are one thing that I can change, and also the option in the solution itself, is that the technicians, since there are only 10 and potentially there are only 10 depot technician groups, then we can use a criteria-based sharing rule to share accounts with the technician so they have then access to the assets via its control by parent sharing relationship. The regional maintenance associates will be able to then update the availability of the scooters. Since we are using Salesforce Scheduler here, we're going to be able to also leverage then the um, availability features that are inherent to that product. And then once the service representatives or support representatives here receives a case via the case queue assignment that is there, they will also be able to leverage omni-channel for the automatic routing to the support representatives if needed. But most importantly, their managers and executives will be able to also view the details of the cases as well, since they're above them in the role hierarchy. Riders will be able to make their choose if they want their contact details exposed or public or private. I wasn't sure about this specific requirement, but it's implying that this is also a social media, or at least there's some social media aspects of this application. So what I'm going to do is expose a toggle option for the writers to select if they want to have their contact details shown to the public or to other experienced cloud users. The repair service managers will not be able to view the writer's driver's license based on permission sets, so FLS will be set up for them. The repair service managers will be able to view the different maintenance and repair details via their association with the work order. And then they will have access to them based on the sharing sets that are associated with the work order object. I mentioned how they will be able to leverage the registered writers will be able to leverage an auth provider for Google and Facebook. I also mentioned how registered writers can set up using self-registration on the portal itself, set up their own username and password. The employees, though, internally will be able to log in automatically to the platform via Kerberos, and that is facilitated by Azure AD here. And that Azure AD also integrates via using LDAP protocol with the Active Directory server that is displayed or talked about at this point here. The employees will also be automatically provisioned and deprovisioned from that LDAP using the Azure AD integration, and that will be using that scheme that's built into the Azure AD. And that concludes my presentation. Thank you very much.